Those things where it's just the bad side of the pop culture community just deciding to come back into the limelight again.
It does ebb and flow though, because I feel like that sort of died out, the cosplay is not consent, because it was so well known.
Yes.
And I do think with TikTok and a lot of content creators, especially in the gaming space, it's sort of like, oh, if you make this kind of content, you chose that, now I'm allowed to encroach on your space. And this goes,
and that's
yeah, and it's very much beyond genders. Like, this isn't just like femme gaming kind of thing.
No,
Like, I've
no,
seen
it
that.
definitely isn't.
Yeah, Melbourne.
Macaque.
The macaque.
Melbourne exhibition.
It's the Melbourne
convention.
Convention Exhibition and Exhibition Centre.
Yes.
Yes, we're going
Macaque.
macaque. So today we've got Walking Fire Hazard and Angry Nyan Nyan, and we'll be chatting about general con stuff, etiquette, accessibility at conventions, the things we're looking forward to, the gaming, the cosplay, the TTRPGs, and then also just what we wish we knew before we went to our first con and how cons have kind of changed over the last, probably like
5 years.
10 years, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
even just within the 5 years, especially coming back from COVID.
That's a good point.
That's a big one.
Alrighty, well, let's get into it. So, first up, we've got just general like con stories. So, you guys went to Smash very recently. So,
Yes,
Smash,
sir.
So, Smash is a convention in Sydney. My first big convention was actually Smash, and that was 11 years ago now. So,
Really showing your age here.
oh well, you know, that's okay. I can.
That's not to be like old.
A breadth of experiences are here today.
Yes.
And I remember at the time it was Supernova Melbourne
What was your first?
was the first big one,
Yeah, right.
which was a lot more anime kind of focused, but it was also kind of strange. Like, there was a lot of sort of subculture at Supernova, and I was like, I'm not really sure how I feel about this.
Okay.
Whereas Smash was very like anime friendly. It felt more accessible, especially if you're like in those later years of high school.
Yes.
Is it still on Darling Harbour?
Yes, it is. It's still at the ICC.
I see, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, how was your experience this year?
It was really good. So it is big, I will say that. It's insanely crowded. That is definitely a big one. I'm not too sure what the numbers were. But in my opinion, the convention hall does get super, super packed. So if you get easily overwhelmed, I'd say you'd probably be in and out of the convention center, but then you'd be floating around for whatever events are happening.
Particularly the Artist Alley was
Ooh.
horrifically cramped this
To
year.
be fair though, I will say there is a lot of variety because it is that the Artist Alley, and for those who don't know what Artist Alley is, it's where a lot of independent artists go to set up and sell their own merch to con-goers. But yeah, the Artist Alley probably alone took up at least a third of that entire floor space.
Yeah.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, so
That's
that's
definitely
even with
cool.
like official booth holders and whatnot taking up space on that convention floor. So it was a large space. But even with that in mind, like we said, it was crowded. It was a busy time.
Yeah, every photo you sent me, I was like, this seems awful. Like, I don't normally mind big crowded spaces, and especially because we were at PAX last year, but I just thought, like, when are you actually going to see anything? Because was there a lot of lineups?
Not necessarily, no. It's just that it was a packed space.
I see.
So yeah, it's just very busy. There's a lot of people in and out, a lot of people sticking around, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Even like all the events that were like stages had like enough space. I think people were just quite focused on the Artist Alley.
Yeah,
That was what it seems like.
Maybe over the years, because I feel like the conventions, they all kind of had to do the same thing. And I think to set themselves apart a little bit, it sort of leaned into a bit more. Like, I remember when Supernova originally started doing stuff like the Supernatural car and a lot more movies and pop culture stuff rather than just anime. So, what was your favorite memory of Smash this year? And yes, it can include the after parties.
Making Alexi Noriyaro, he's a Australian drift YouTuber who lives in Japan. Make him sign a body pillow.
Oh, you actually did it? I'm getting it signed.
Get it.
Yes.
And then I had to bring it because this one left it in the apartment.
No.
I thought
dare you
you
do
weren't
that?
going to say that. You're not supposed to
No,
call me
I'm,
out.
I'm going to call you out like that.
Well, that's pretty cool that he made it down to Sydney for that.
I think because cars now are so entwined. Like there was an Etaisha competition, and there was a really good display of Etaishas there. Even though, from what I've heard, there were quite a few submissions, and a lot of them didn't make it in. So yeah.
Yeah, I will say that I'm not surprised just because of how tight the floor space was.
It makes sense.
Yeah, just because they had to fit so much.
Okay. So how many cars were there actually a lot of wrapped cars?
There were quite a few. There was at least, if I remember correctly, on the left side, there were at least 3.
Yeah, at least 3.
And then another 5, so around 8 to 10, if I remember correctly. They all had
That's still
pretty
impressive.
distinct styles. One of them was sort of like the manga style, where it's like the wrap was like to accentuate the lines of the cars, like it's like moving.
Yeah, kind of like, the what's it called? The shading style of like kind of like JoJo's.
Yeah.
Cell shading. That's the
Cell
term I'm
shading,
looking
yeah,
for.
Trying to make
yeah.
it
That
look
kind of
like
thing.
it's from initially in the sense of it's in
It's
the
got
manga
the
panel.
yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
They with the line art on it, yeah.
I think that car's on for sale. It's a van.
Oh.
it's on for
That's
sale
still
for like
cool
10
though.
grand.
Also, I'd rather have a van, man. You get extra cup holders.
Apart from that, I also had a competition to see who could undo the nuts on a wheel the fastest.
I'm still annoyed I missed out on that one.
I was very slow.
Practical skills 0.
Yeah, he also Alexei also gave a speech on the history of Itaisha, if I remember correctly. I did not get to see it. I was busy walking around.
Oh, okay. But that's
Yeah.
okay. So that gives a bit of a unique element because it's not just sort of like a meet and greet. Because I think a lot of people are just not willing to pay just for like lining up, saying hello, getting something signed. Like, yes, there's still space for that.
Yes.
But I think a lot more visitors are actually doing effort into doing something with their presence there.
Yeah. I do agree with that. Obviously, it just depends on who your guests are. When it comes to a lot more involved guests, especially cosplayers and that, they're more willing for those kind of open panels kind of moments. That and from what I'm seeing from other conventions overseas, voice actors as well are very much getting more into that kind of scene. But when it comes to places like Supernova, it does tend to be mostly still like meet and greets, that kind of thing.
And what about your favorite thing that happened at Smash?
Honestly, it was just seeing the cosplays because that was my first time at Smash and probably the biggest convention I've gone to so far. Definitely, actually, no, that's definitely the biggest convention I've gone to so far, just from sheer numbers. If anything, I was actually a little overwhelmed with how busy it was. But just seeing the levels of cosplays and then just the amount of space that there was for the convention as well, even with that in mind, it was still busy. But there was a lot of space. Especially one of the things I actually loved being at the ICC, there was that massive block, like just where the lines were and stuff. But that was such a cool spot for people to take photos that I was seeing.
Oh, nice. Did a lot of people take photos there where sort of like the windows are like towards the harbor?
Yeah, some people were. That was a hallway towards like where they were holding the cosplay comp and stuff, I think. So it does become like a way of traffic and whatnot. But I'm pretty sure some people were.
It was very much in terms of where people taking cosplay. It was mostly the roof. That's where all the
mostly
cosplay
the roof or along like the outside
Side.
walk, like near where
we
the
have
escorts are.
space. Where There's not like a
Yeah.
bunch
There's
of people
space.
walking.
It's just that there's a lot of people.
No, that makes sense. Okay, so like, were the cosplays mainly from anime, or was it sort of like a mix between pop culture and
It's
gaming?
a mix, but I think with Smash, it was definitely more focused around anime.
Yeah.
Or at least like shows and media, that kind of thing. At least that's what I noticed.
And I think also from just my observations, even at DreamHack, and that it does seem like people are doing more with props and like movable parts to their cosplay
Yes,
than
yes.
in previous years. I feel like it sort of comes in waves. I feel like about 5 years ago, there was a lot of people doing like wings and mechanics and that. And then it sort of, and maybe it was COVID, but it felt like it sort of died down a bit and now it's picking up again.
Honestly, I think that's just another thing with trends where as soon as someone finds something new and a new thing to do and a new way to do it, it kind of picks up amongst the community and then everyone starts trying it and then it'll die off. And then some people pick it up again or some people pick up a new skill. And I think that's just really something that's happening because like another thing that's been coming bigger lately is giant armor builds. That's definitely something that's picked up in the past few years. And then obviously, like especially like with when Overwatch came out, people were trying to make those
yeah.
giant Reinhardt builds. And then people started doing Warhammer, Gundam cosplays. And then obviously that blew up, and then people are starting to do it again. And with the what's it called, the recency of TikTok in the past few years, especially with COVID, it's allowed the spread of that kind of like knowledge or know-how that's been going into it, which means more people are trying it. So yeah.
Yeah, that is a good point. And I think also the affordability of 3D printing.
Yes, that is a big one. That's why 3D printing is such a tool in the maker space, not even just for cosplay, just in general for people, is just because of how much more affordable it's gotten.
And at PAX, we saw a couple of sort of like full like knights and armors kind of thing just done with. Most of it seemed still that it was foam, but there were a few ones that like the face pieces I feel were more like 3D printing.
There's also, I've noticed lately, is a lot of people who are quite, even at events like that, who are actually like wearing actual armor, who are like, they're more akin to like reenactors and like impressionists. Because they were quite, in the last one, we met a guy who, I think he was also in a Xeon cosplay from Gundam. But he was also in the next day, he was wearing a historical Korean uniform. And then there were quite as 3 or 4 people who were wearing historical Chinese armors.
Yo, yeah, because especially in the pop culture spaces, because of how much more, I guess, cultures or eras that are being represented in media, we've actually had much more. Another thing that I noticed with Smash is there's a lot more blending of like hobbies now as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess because it's
yeah.
like it's a niche space already, and in a way it can kind of be exploited in a good way if you're already into something and you're like, well, there's not really a space for it, and then something like a convention gives you that space of like, oh, like bring all your weird and wonderful things here. And yeah, with popular media as well, because a lot of TV shows.
Yeah. I'm just remembering whenever you see like cosplayers outside of events. And it's just like, because I remember I was just trying to get dinner with my friend, and there's like 4 dudes in armor.
I am quickly interrupting in the post-edit phase. No, this isn't an ad, don't worry. It's just to remind you that the Geeky Speechy podcast is also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and a lot of different audio platforms, specifically because I just uploaded to Podbean and then that distributes it out. So I really like that a lot of people are watching the video version here on YouTube, and please keep commenting and sharing that. I also know that the algorithm sometimes makes it difficult for people to find podcasts on YouTube, so if you do have one of those audio platforms that you frequently visit to listen to podcasts, please go and follow Geeky Speechy on that. And then also I now have a dedicated Instagram page, which is just for the podcast things, not just my Mialotic Instagram that I normally share some of the clips with. And I just did that because then I can sort of focus a lot more of the therapy, education, anything from pediatrics and adults, therapy to speech pathology to some of the other clinical areas just on there. And then especially the first quarter this year, I was really getting back into cosplay a lot. So if you're interested in cosplay, I've been doing a lot of cosplaying just on Mialotic. En baie dankie vir al julle ondersteuning. So back to the episode.
Oh, okay. Like, what is that?
Oh, okay. Nice try.
But also, when we went to PAX last year, you and I went for a walk, which was a big mistake, because walking up the hill in Melbourne, you with your little dressy, like, Yakuza shoes.
Oh, goodness.
I painted on leather shoes.
And then,
crack.
because around the convention center, there's like lots of cosplayers walking around, and then as you go further and further, it's like, oh, there's different hair colors, guys still in suits, and then the further you get, you're like, oh, we are now the only people in cosplay. We are now far away from the
if you're
center.
far.
All right, so last year at PAX, where did you spend most of your time? Because you went this Saturday and then ended up buying a ticket for Sunday. Yeah.
Drinking.
Oh, yes. I remember that.
PAX had a bar last year, the PAX pub, that was sponsored by.
This is where I'd like to say, please drink responsibly.
Yes,
Yes.
please
Have
drink.
fun. Drink responsibly.
Where it was sponsored by Cold Ones, Grog.
Oh, good old grog, man.
Grog, yes. And they had not a raffle, prize draw where if you gave them 5 completed cans of grog, you get to spin a raffle mystery reel, and I did that 3 times.
Like we said, responsibly.
Yeah, so at PAX, so you were spinning the wheel, and then I also started collecting cans for you because I was like, well, I don't want to spin the wheel. I just want to kind of get away from everything because I went the Friday, and the Friday, I think if you're new to PAX and you're visiting, so you don't have to like take time. Well, I guess like if you're already traveling in that time to go the Friday, because a lot of people that are local, well, they're going the Saturday and Sunday. And the Friday was great because you can get like first dibs on a lot of the different board games and play the video games. And there's also these big mystery boxes. So you can sort of get access to that first. But this Saturday, a lot of people from Melbourne are also going. And a lot of people are also bringing their kids to a convention for the first time. So there was a massive surge of people from between the Friday and the Saturday. And then on Saturday, I was like, I just need to get as far back as possible. And then that was the PAX pub. And that's when I found you and your friend having a good old time. But then by 4 o'clock, you weren't looking too good.
Yeah. As in my schedule, the only thing I was looking at for PAX was Yakuza, well, Like a Dragon, Gaiden demo. And as in, we lined up as they're opening the doors. So we got in about a couple minutes after opening time. And even then, I had to wait about 45 an hour to get to the demo. And then afterwards, I was like,
That's it,
drinking
done.
time.
No, that's fair. I think you sort of, it's good to have some idea of one thing you really want to do to sort of tick off. And then for the rest of it, sort of leave it quite open. Like, be aware of what's happening, because otherwise, like you said, like you weren't aware like something was happening, and then you kind of feel like you've missed out.
Yeah.
But last year, my biggest struggle with PAX was, because I went the Friday, Saturday, was I had all these things on my schedule, but some of them overlapped by half an hour.
Yeah.
And then some of them would end on the hour, but then you have to go so far. So you like basically like fast, like, because you can't, well, you shouldn't be running in the center because that can cause injury, but sort of like you're really like tracking across the convention center, barely making it. So you're constantly running around, and it's like, well, that's not then.
Yeah, and what was
all
my
that
first
fun.
time for PAX going this year? From what I remember seeing, they've got a larger space this year. With like they've got a larger amount of space where they've got things happening. So obviously that doesn't help with this. So
No.
if you don't know what you're doing, or if you've checked things and things are like only 15 minutes apart, you are struggling to keep up.
Yeah, I think if you're only going one day especially, definitely have some kind of plan.
And have a look at the schedule, definitely, because especially now, I'm pretty sure the schedule is out for PAX this year.
Yeah, so
by
the
this point.
schedule's out at this point, and also on the PAX app, you can sort of go down the schedule and you can pick things, and you can even let it send you like little like notifications to kind of go like, oh, this event is starting soon.
Yeah.
And I found that was really helpful at DreamHack as well. So I would think that would be the better way of doing it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're going the entire weekend, definitely pace yourself a bit more, because otherwise you'll get to Sunday and just be completely exhausted. And there's often on the Sunday a lot of the cosplay stuff happening, which is odd. I know that's something that you found quite odd.
Yeah, but I think that's just to get more people to come in
On
during
the
those
Sunday.
because that is something that I kind of noticed when it came to at least my experience with Supernova. Is a lot of people came in on the Saturday, and then Sunday kind of died down quite a bit. And that was my experience with, specifically from memory, I think that was Brisnova 2022. So yeah, and I think it's the same for most Supernovas, where they mostly are busy towards the front end.
Yeah. Which it does make sense. And especially if people are traveling back to wherever they come from. And now compared to, so you went to Tokyo, what is it, Comic-Con?
I went to Tokyo Comic Con 2018, yes.
Okay, so what is like the standout feature that is different from like anime cons in Australia compared to Japan? Other than you have to mostly get dressed at the convention.
Oh, that's a big one.
Actually, that is actually probably something worth talking about. That's a big one for everyone that ever considers going to Japan.
if you're a cosplayer in Japan, it's a social faux pas to be in cosplay in public without, say, the event actually being in public. So in most things, you will have to, especially since post-COVID now, register, get everything, and they'll have a change room, and it's just a big room where everyone just sort of strips and changes into their cosplays. Tokyo Comic Con was interesting. It felt very similar to this one, to like the ones in Australia, but there wasn't really that much of an art alley. It was probably the smallest. Only a couple rows, not that big. It was very much more. It felt very much more corporate.
Okay.
Yeah, like Sony was there.
Oh, okay. So big names.
Yeah, like big names, like everything big was there. But then again, maybe I'm just remembering Tokyo Game Show as well, because they took
Yeah, I was
place
gonna say because Tokyo Game Show.
in the same.
It was actually just yesterday that the last day for Tokyo Game Show happened, and they had like a massive sort of headline of like Kodansha, which is interesting because yes, they also do publish games, but it was an interesting presence just to kind of have there at a games convention.
If you're going to Japan, the big one, in terms of like, if you go to Tokyo Game Show, it's usually at Makuhari Messe, which is in Chiba, technically, on the way to Disneyland. So it's sort of out your way. But the other big one is Tokyo Comic Market. Because ever since COVID now, it used to be a free event, and you just really didn't have to buy a ticket. You just sort of showed up and just like walked in.
Oh wow!
The idea was you would buy the guide because it is an absolutely massive like complex that you have to go through, the Tokyo big site. Yeah, now you have to buy a ticket beforehand. You probably have to buy a guide, or else you will not make it anywhere. Yeah, from what I've heard from my friends who've gone the last couple of times, it's not as big, but it still has a very dedicated fan base, considering that Tokyo Comic Con is very much, the main purpose is, apart from cosplay, as like essentially it's just an artist alley.
Yeah, and I'm wondering then with because you said it was Tokyo Comic Con that didn't have much of an artist alley. Yeah. It's also just looking at recent videos from some YouTubers like Emerichu, where they go to that what was that called? Where they just kind of go to this one place and it's just like the whole thing is just a big artist alley. It's like twice a year. There's one in the autumn, one in the spring.
Oh, Comic-Con.
Comic-Con, yeah.
Was that Comic-Con?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, I know that has like a big emphasis just on independent artists. You're not allowed to use any art, like you have to draw everything from scratch.
It's also not just artists. It's artists per se. It's also not just manga. It's music, video games. You'll get cosplayers who will sell their cosplay books there.
Oh wow.
Like Vocaloid artists.
Yeah.
I have some signed Yonju Meter P CDs at home.
Oh, nice.
Who else have I met? I met Argo Anarchy. He's a relatively famous Vocaloid producer.
Nice.
And then there's also what's the word? Commercial component to it.
Okay.
Usually the actual what's the word called for companies
Like a scout? Like a scout?
No. Like they have official merchandise, official setups.
Oh, like the booths.
Yeah, like they'll have actual booths, but it's always in a really specific place on the third floor.
Oh, kind of like a vendor booth area.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. They, in a way, they sort of did that with PAX, where sort of in the middle you'll have like, oh, there's Nintendo, there's Sony, and then they'll have a lot of the like main gaming companies, and then the indie games or like independent sort of producers or creators or even artists that work on video games. They'll be sort of like towards the back, which is where you enter. I don't know. I guess it depends on which way you look at it.
Yeah.
If you want to know what Tokyo Comic Con is like, you should watch Lucky Star.
Oh no, that is a throwback.
Yeah, it really is. But to be fair though, Comic-Con does get a lot of representation, a lot of anime and manga, not even modern ones. Just like it spans out quite a bit.
Also,
Yeah.
please know that it's like 90% not safe for work. Well, 95% not safe for work.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's
That's another component to it.
Yes.
Now getting to the after party, because I didn't make it to the DreamHack after party, but you guys surely did. And then comparing that to, because you also went on after party at Smash?
What?
Kinda.
There were a couple, but we also went to the
The
pre-anime
Hoshi,
rave.
yeah, the pre-party.
Oh, yeah.
So it just depends. So what we've noticed is that some of these come up pretty last minute. It's like, I'm pretty sure the Hoshi one just got announced for PAX coming up, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And then as well, there's usually just a lot of independently run events. Like, I don't think there's typically any that are connected to the actual events.
Yeah, I think especially with PAX, they very much distance themselves from that. I'm surprised that a lot of the clubs are even allowed to have
Mention
like
them?
PAX on the banner. I
Yeah.
think for DreamHack that wasn't the case. Like the glitch banner was just like the glitch,
The
like
glitch banner.
yeah,
I'm pretty
so-
sure that's just them.
I think even Glitch now for the PAX one, it's just the expo after
Like
party.
the font. Like, I'm pretty sure it just uses the font.
Yeah.
Which is, I think that's fair because I mean, you never know what can happen in a space like that.
That's
and
exactly
it's
it.
not their insurance or liability.
Yeah.
So, yeah, because with PAX, we couldn't get into any of the parties last year because we weren't aware of it. And that's the thing is sometimes the first time you go, you shouldn't go in with like a great expectation of, oh, you're going to experience all there is to offer.
Yeah.
It needs to kind of be oh, this is my first time going, and this is me collecting information for the next time I'm going.
Yeah, and that is something that I will say is definitely worth doing when it comes to going to a convention. If you've had friends that have gone to the specific convention as well or been in that area, I would highly recommend speaking to them because especially when it comes to conventions, sometimes it's particularly hard to get to a certain area. So like my first time ever going to a big con, Golden Over 2022, what you'll find is that, especially if you're someone like me who was driving, there is not many places with parking nearby.
Oh.
So that was one of the big points there that made it a little difficult for me, as well as accommodation. With us, we ended up staying relatively far away, but ended up being closer than most people, probably like about 15 minutes out. But then obviously it took a bit longer because trying to find a parking was pain.
I think this time we did pretty well where we just sort of got somewhere that was like on the main train line.
Yes.
And even though we all have friends in Melbourne that we can stay with, I know last year it really chewed up a lot of my time traveling to and from the location I was staying at because it was just
Yeah.
in one of the suburbs. And so I think that's something just to consider. Like if you're going by yourself and you do have friends there, obviously then yeah, do the effort and just stay with friends because it does cut down on the cost. But I even know some content creators and people that like PAX is like that thing that they go to every year. They'll, even if they live in Melbourne, they'll rent an Airbnb in the city.
I definitely think it's worth it though, because especially with how much time you'd be spending on public transport.
Yeah.
And especially if you're a content creator, at that point, your time is valuable because you need to spend that time making content, going to the actual event itself,
And not
then
getting
obviously-
burnt out.
That's exactly it.
And if you're a cosplayer, so you don't look like a crazy person.
Yeah.
Traveling to the event. Don't get the police called on you.
So actually that's a good segue into in terms of what to wear. So what is like a good sort of blanket statement for like what do you think is like the most important thing in terms of consideration of what you wear? Because
Like,
Melbourne,
in cosplay or just
well, what you wear, and then if you're a cosplayer, because I know for Melbourne it's so unpredictable with weather, but the reality is October, and even when we were there at DreamHack, like it's not hot.
no?
So you don't really want to, because even though the place is temperature controlled, there's a lot of people in there,
Yeah.
but it's not as hot as you think it would be. I know for PAX I was wearing, and I don't get cold that easily, but I was wearing a coat quite comfortably the entire time. And I had to modify my summer cosplay to be more sort of like weather enduring. And there are cloakrooms as well.
Yeah.
So any tips on what to wear?
I
Not-
think that's just one of those things where you just have to kind of research the area that you're in. Because with the specifically like Gold Nova, because it is getting towards like winter time, it's getting windy enough where you could layer up a little bit, but it does still get pretty warm. The Melbourne cons that I've been to so far, or just whenever I've gone to Melbourne's, it honestly has stayed pretty consistent weather-wise.
It's
I
always
just haven't-
cold.
Yeah.
I don't understand how.
I think for a tip that I definitely want to bring about is shoes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because-
Okay, that's probably the
Important
best. Yeah.
Because even if you're in cosplay, if you have specific shoes that you wear for photos, just put that in a backpack, take your
Yes.
photos with it, and then put on like Doc Martens or runners or something. Because, and especially if you're in a cosplay with like a tunic or a dress, no one's gonna look at your shoes.
Oh yeah.
And you're gonna not just walk a lot, but you're gonna be on your feet the whole day.
Yeah, that is actually a very important one. And not just that, especially if you are a traveler like me and you are having to walk a lot of your spots since obviously you don't have your car with you. Walking is going to be your main mode of transport, even if you are taking public transport, because it's what's getting you around. With that in mind, if you don't necessarily get other shoes, get insoles.
Oh yeah.
Insoles are a big one.
Yeah.
I ended up having to do that the last time we went to Melbourne.
should've-
Man, that was hurting.
I should have bought some. but
Yeah, I actually forgot about that. That's a good point. And I think also just taking some form of bag with you that you can easily carry things around. Because
Yeah.
last year I put like a tote bag in my bag if I wanted to buy something, and a tote bag that I knew was comfortable. Because otherwise you have this like drawstring bag and it like cuts into your hand because
Oh,
you're
yeah.
walking with it for like 5 hours. So I think that's just something good to keep in mind. And then also there are charging stations at most cons,
Yes.
Yeah.
but the wires are really bad. Like
Oh, yeah.
you have your phone, then it charges like 1% in 5 minutes, and it's like this is not gonna do it. And again, especially if you're a content creator, take a battery pack and take your charger with you. That's a fast charger.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So even if you are like kind of like a dodgy PowerPoint, you can at least get a little bit more out of that charge.
Yeah.
If you're a cosplayer, bring a person.
Yeah, so
Bring
that's
an
kind of
assistant.
yeah. That's what really helped last year was I decided that maybe one of my friends could be the person that holds my things, and now my mom just calls them the handbag. So that's
Or as the
pretty
theme
good.
goes, backpack, backpack.
Yeah.
I guess this does really just connect to a good point of what we would bring in our personal packs, or I guess what we would recommend bringing for a first time into conventions. And that power packs is definitely a big one, especially if you're keeping track with your friends and everything. You guys might just go your separate ways and whatnot, but obviously you're going to want to meet up after. You're at a convention pretty much the entire day. Some phones simply cannot last that long, especially if you're going around taking photos with all your friends and whatnot. Your phones will die quicker than you think.
I think also to have meetup spots, if you're a bit nervous about people getting lost or just generally just want to know you're all sort of in range, so you don't have to worry
Oh,
about
yeah.
people. Just say like, if it's like 9 o'clock in the morning, say like, hey, at between 12 and 1, we're going to have lunch here, or like between 2 and 3, we're going to meet up at this thing. And literally, if you just walk past each other and go like, hey, and then like continue on,
Yeah.
because then maybe, yeah, someone's phone did die, or just say, hey, if all else fails, meet back at the accommodation at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
So it's kind of good just to kind of keep track of everyone. Speaking of lunchtime and food, what did you guys do for like all of the con experiences in the last couple of years that you found the most efficient way to do food? Because con food can be a bit overpriced. Didn't find it to be too overpriced at DreamHack specifically.
Yeah, but
But
because
I-
DreamPack also had food vendors as well. Then they weren't too bad. They were actually really nice, actually.
Yeah, I feel like that was the exception though, because
Yeah.
generally at cons it's pretty expensive.
It's really expensive. Definitely bring your own water bottle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Water, hydrate or dihydrate. And when it comes to Smash, actually, I really like that they did it. They had water stations.
Yeah.
I think they're doing that for PAX this year. I
Oh,
read,
really?
Yeah, I read up about it just to kind of see what is everyone doing in terms of where you can buy different things. And then like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
just this
Yeah.
year for, I guess like this was more sustainability thing. They're like, bring your own water bottle because there will be full up stations.
Yeah, yeah. What was happening?
Flat pack trolleys.
Oh yeah. So this is something I've noticed a lot with some artist alley goers nowadays. That's very convenient. Or if you are a cosplayer
Player.
with big cosplayer, with like your armor builds and whatnot, and you have a handler, flat pack trolleys. They're great.
That's like the number one thing you'll see for essentially any cosplay in Japan at an event. They are just like taking around a trolley or like a little bag, like rolling bag. And that's like
Okay.
that's what they're using the whole time. If they have to change out, because Japan won't let you cosplay in public.
Well, also just double check the rules of the convention.
Oh,
and
of course.
because I know prams, for example, so strollers, they're not allowed in the convention space because they're a tripping hazard, but there's like stroller parking, so you can take the pram, take the stroller. So it might just depend on what you are allowed to take in there.
Yeah, it just really depends on the convention space and whatnot.
Don't do what I do. Just don't go in unprepared with literally nothing, because that's what I do.
Okay, don't do what.
And that's why this man had to buy a tote bag at con.
No, it was part of the free merch that they give out for playing the demos. It's fine.
Right.
Ooh, and actually, here's one that some people don't think about. If you are buying prints, get a poster tube.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that is something good to remember, because I know one of my friends, she convinced one of the stall holders to keep her poster the whole day and then just take it with her at the end, which was fine for the way Artist Alley was laid out for DreamHack, but most conventions, it's just chaotic and they cannot keep everything.
Yep.
Alternatively, those like just a flip file or, oh, wait, that's something in South Africa. Like, you know those like files that you brought me back from
Clear
Japan?
files?
Just like clear files
Oh,
or
yeah,
any
clear
kind
files,
of
yeah.
or if you've really run out of options, just get like a notepad, you know, like the cardboard side of
yeah.
it. So you can just put it in there. But I think, yeah, poster tube is a good idea. But then also, if you're not planning to buy such big kind of posters, just getting like an A3 or an A4 file and just having
Yeah.
everything in there.
I will say though, if you specifically get the mailing ones, and if you're someone like me that obviously travels for the conventions, it's good to get the mailing ones, because then it's like, oh hey, I don't have enough space in my luggage. Oh, look at that, it's in a mailing tube straight away. Just send it home.
Yeah, that is a really good tip. And also, and this kind of gets into the accessibility space a bit more as well. So having headphones. So if you're the kind of person that just kind of needs to zone out for a little bit and listen to music, or kind of like to help regulation, or just because it's very noisy, noise cancelling headphones could be good. I took my JBLs last year, and that was mostly because generally I don't mind noise as much, but I just thought, oh, it's going to be a long day. I might just kind of want to have a bit of my own space. And there's these beautiful areas in most conventions that's sort of like the chill out space. And it is a
Yes.
bit quieter. There's low lighting. But I know last year I ended up buying like loop earplugs just because I was like, well, maybe it's going to just be a lot more noisy in the area. And I think in the end, because I have just heard of it, I brought some extra earbuds if other people need to wear them,
Yeah.
which has now been more the case. Like I have not really needed to wear them, but like I've been able to give them to friends.
Yeah.
So I think just sort of like be aware of like how long is like your capacity, how long is your string, and having things like, oh, remember to take your meds if you're someone that takes medication at a regular time. Very easy to forget when you're in the
Oh,
sort of
yeah,
flurry of
definitely.
conventions. If so, like with the hydration, like take some headache tablets that are appropriate for you, because you might end up, despite drinking all the water in the world, get to like 4 o'clock and you're like, oh, I want to go to the panels that are hosted at night, but now I've got a headache. So make sure you've got the appropriate meds that you need to take. And also, if you are someone that forgets to eat, have an alarm on your phone to have a snack.
That is very important.
Yeah.
Because you don't realize it, especially if you're really excited to be playing a lot of games
Oh,
or you're
yeah.
lining up.
Genuinely.
Yeah.
That is something, because I think that was definitely the case with me over at DreamHack, is when there's a lot for you to do and a lot to look at, you will forget to take care of yourself.
And I think with PAX last year, I was just like, I'm not going to line. I thought it was actually going to be worse, the lineups. I think they spaced out the food vendors pretty well. But I just bought like a sandwich from, or like a wrap or a sandwich or something from the convenience store up the road. And then I had like a muesli bar or something in my pack. I don't even think I ate most of the food I brought, but I bought like small things that are convenient that won't go off during the day. And
Oh,
also,
yeah.
Yeah, because then you kind of know it's like, oh, whenever you kind of need to, you can just sit
Grab
down.
something.
Yeah.
No, that is something I will say. Just another thing I have in my pack is I always just have some kind of snack, because if I do get hungry and I really just cannot be bothered going into one of the stores or something to get some food,
Yeah.
I at least have something.
Yeah. And I think with accessibility, something that I have noticed is they also have medical passes.
Yes.
So something that, and this is whether you have a physical disability or if you do have like really sensory concerns that are a great barrier to your experience, you can get these medical passes. You pick them up on the day, and it doesn't allow you to like skip lines or anything, but they sort of like slot you in kind of like when you get on a plane and you're in sort of like the wheelchair
Yeah.
aisle, not everyone is actually on a wheelchair. It's just the way they get you onto the plane. So you're not an inconvenience. Just like kind of like consider these things that everyone is kind of there to help each other have a nice time.
Yeah, and that is actually something that I've liked to see from conventions, especially post-COVID, is that openness to those kind of sensory sensitivities as well.
I think with DreamHack, something they did well and then not so well. So the chill out space was a really good sort of like regulation sort of space, sort of get back on track. However, I feel like because for the creators, they had just a completely like quiet space. But they didn't really do that for anyone else or everyone else. I'm unsure if they had one for people that had medical badges.
Okay.
And I'm not too sure what it's going to look like for PAX this year.
Yeah.
But it sort of felt like they had sort of more of these things available for creators. And it could also be because creators kind of do have to be at a different pace because they're there
Yeah.
for a specific reason, or maybe they got sponsored by a company. So there's sort of more
Yeah.
at stake than just your casual con enjoyer.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping to see more of that at PAX this year where they also point out those spaces a lot better. Because it wasn't
Yeah.
really clear at DreamHack where these things would be, other than that massive space. That was such a good space.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so that's kind of like, after party stuff. Did you guys just keep your cosplays on and then go to the after party, or did you go back, or what did you do?
Well, specifically with Glitch, they had a discount for people in cosplay, and I think that day I wasn't in cosplay, so I was like, okay, back to the apartment, get changed, and go over. Which wasn't too bad though, because
Yeah.
we were just within pretty much walking distance of the
Yeah,
convention
yeah.
anyway.
Oh, right. I had a VTuber concert I had to go to, so I just.
Oh
I,
yeah, we went to the VTuber concert.
Yeah.
Nice.
Because that was also very very like big tangent here, but that was the Australian premiere, wasn't it? For
Yeah, it was like first
yeah.
Hololive in Australia.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been really cool to go to the VTuber concert and then immediately go to the Glitch after party. Because a lot of people, I think, would have gone to the VTubing thing and then just immediately gone to
Feet
the after
hurt.
party.
Oh yeah, feed her
Oh,
that day.
no. Yeah, your feet would have hurt a lot. I think also just to remember, if you're going to a convention, especially if you don't know a lot of people there, a lot of people are nervous to talk to other people. So just talk to people. You all have a common interest in one way or another. So don't be afraid to sort of, if the space calls for it, to have a chat with someone. However, in terms of sort of like social etiquette, have sort of a point where you have your conversation and then you sort of leave them alone because you don't know why they're there or what they're doing, or they might be a content creator. You might just not know it because maybe they're just reporting on things afterwards, or maybe they're sort of in the middle of, you know, they're kind of reaching that capacity and then this person's just kind of talking at them.
Yeah.
So there's a balance of like, definitely be friendly in that, but don't sort of linger around too much because that other person will be thankful that you've spoken to them, and if they want to continue the interaction, then they
Yeah,
will
well,
continue the
yeah.
interaction. And then similarly, and this extends to the after party as well, just make sure that, because a lot of people now are, like, it's not just like a bunch of high schoolers or like early teens or early 20s.
No,
There's
it's an adult space.
There's a range of people. It's an adult space as well, just to make sure that like you feel safe, but also like communicate that safety, but also like be prepared. Like if you're there, like a lot of people meet people with similar interests, and you know, just kind of be prepared. I know last year on the, I think it was Confessions of a Gamer Girl, it was like one of the Australian podcasts, they were like, please take condoms and other methods of birth control because we do not need a bunch of con babies.
No.
And yeah, just to be safe in that way as well, because that's
Must be
important.
nice.
But a good segue into con etiquette.
Because I think that a lot of people, when we do have these conversations, we talk about things like water and that, but at the end of the day, like, there's a reality of, like, if you're going to, like, engage with different people and you're like, I'm not intending to do that there, but it might happen. Then at least you're
yeah.
sort of set up for it. So I think with the etiquette in, especially with cosplayers,
Yeah.
and we were talking about, like, going to Smash, like, 10 years ago, a big thing was there were so many people with massive posters, like, what was it always? cosplay isn't consent.
Yes, and it's definitely a big one that's been had to bring back, especially with the resurgence of cosplay within a larger community now, especially because of social media like TikTok. They're coming back into it. It's one of those things where it's just the bad side of the pop culture community just deciding to come back into the limelight again.
It does ebb and flow though, because I feel like that sort of died out, the cosplay is not consent, because it was so well known.
Yes.
And I do think with TikTok and a lot of content creators, especially in the gaming space, it's sort of like, oh, if you make this kind of content, you chose that, now I'm allowed to encroach on your space. And this goes...
and that's...
Yeah, and it's very much beyond genders. Like, this isn't just like femme gaming kind of thing. Like,
No,
I've
it
seen that.
definitely isn't.
Yeah, I've seen that with a lot of like guys in the space and a lot of people that are sort of in that sort of interim where maybe they've like come out as like non-binary and they're not sort of talking a lot about it, but they do maybe make content in some aspects of their content that is a bit more explicit. Then people sort of take that as the opportunity of like, oh, that means like you want our product for me to consume. And it's like, not if they're that's just not how it works.
That's exactly. It's not. It simply is not how it works. We aren't a product.
Yes.
You're a person.
Yeah. And that goes into taking photos. So like you're a photographer, so you probably
Yes.
have a better lens from the other side. But as someone that sometimes cosplays and has photos taken of them, I have appreciated every time like the person will just kind of stand next to you and then you as the cosplayer can ask like, oh, would you like me to put my hand like around your shoulder or something, or you can be indicative of if you have a bag, you'd be like, oh, you can put your arm around me, just rest your arm on the bag.
Yeah.
And so a lot of cosplays have like points on them where they're like, put your hand here.
Yeah.
And I think people appreciate that because sometimes, again, you're just a bit awkward and you're just like, oh, where do I like hold it?
Yeah.
And
It
so
definitely is a thing. Yeah.
So it's not on purpose. It just sort of happens. I don't
No.
know. Like you take a lot of photos with different cosplays because you go there for the cosplay aspect a lot.
I just realized that, am I the weirdo for just taking pictures of cosplayers and like never taking pictures with them? It's like, go get a picture.
Not
Bam.
necessarily. It is a thing because it's the same with me when I first went for conventions because I just think they're cool.
Yeah, it's just like I just take pictures with cosplayers. It's very rare if I take a picture with them. I usually just forget to ask them, like, can I have a picture? Bam, and then I leave.
I think it's when I'm around you, I'm like, oh, do you just want a photo with that person?
I think it's very much like, yeah, it's like, just
You don't want to bother them.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But also, you're allowed to take pictures with cosplayers and gaming content creators. And,
Obviously, ask first.
Oh,
but
sure, yes.
Just yeah.
definitely
territory.
ask. And also, like, sometimes a content creator might come up to you and say, oh, I'm sorry, can you delete that? And, I mean, you don't have to, but as, like, a courtesy, like, you
Yeah.
know, say, like, yeah, that's fine. Is it okay if I take another picture? Or oh, can you sign
Yeah.
something for me? Or just sort of have alternatives. Because, again, you don't know why they're there or what company they're representing. And they might have, like, a clause where they're not allowed to be in certain types of photos and that.
Yeah. You never know what the circumstances.
And anything else for etiquette that you can think of?
One thing I will say is especially when it comes to cosplayers, like if you want to interact or wanted to take photos with them, if they obviously look like they're taking a break, they're eating, don't interrupt them. That's one of those things. It's especially, or even if they're just sitting down, like not interacting with anyone, that's usually a sign of them taking the time to themselves to take a break.
Which we should be encouraging and not that they're sort of like...
especially at a convention where it is very much sensory overload to a lot of people.
And I think also in lines, like when you sort of like stand in lines, a lot of the times people are kind of just in lines and happy to have a chat, but sometimes that is also their break time.
Yeah.
And I think that's when a lot of people don't just sort of put in those sort of like noise blocking like earbuds or something. They actually take like big gaming headphones or something because they're
just
like,
lose.
Yeah.
it's
Cut
more
it out.
to signal someone, well, also to signal someone else, don't bother me.
Yeah.
Which is also fair enough. And sorry.
Yeah, I
you
think
go.
ironically for me, that's like usually when I talk to people the most. It's usually because we're lined up for something we all like, and so it's like we're all just like, yeah.
There's already like a pre-established topic.
Or it's because I don't know what I'm lined up for, and I have to figure out if the people next to me if we're at the right line.
There are a lot of lines.
Yeah.
Easy to do. And a lot of people always talk about hygiene in terms of conventions. And I do think sometimes it's a bit overstated. A lot of people are like, oh, like make sure you wear deodorant. And I'm like, yes, do. But I haven't found that to be such a great problem in the last few. I don't know about Smash, but I know in
Smash seemed fine. Too.
I was surprised with at least PAX with the space. However, I will say that it's not about like, oh, whether you like, if you don't normally wear deodorant, it's one of those things of like, again, courtesy of other people. Just find something that works for you in these spaces because.
Just have a little common sense and be clean. That's essentially all it's saying.
And courtesy as well.
I've noticed that if it's like a really like anime specific convention.
Oh, we have been going to more gaming ones. That is true.
Yeah. How do I say this? That this isn't about hygiene. Actually, it's
No, it's fine.
it sort of smells like hairspray. The whole place because there's so many wigs.
Okay,
yeah.
And like I try to notice about Smash. You walk into like not the lobby, like it's like the sort of like lobby, like the pathway areas, and you just like sort of smells like
to be
hairspray.
fair though, there was like a panel where they were working on a wig, so you can't really fault them.
Yeah,
on
but if
that.
the outside smells like hairspray as well.
Oh, that's funny. But yeah, there's so many different things to sort of like think about and discuss, and it's also if you've been sort of in the space for a while, it makes it tough to really think about those specific things.
Yeah.
And I think also just ask. Like a lot of people
Oh, yeah.
are there for the
Yeah.
first time. So even when I went to the bigger conventions, I did go to smaller ones first, and it's a good opportunity to learn. So if you're first sort of wanting to have your sort of first experience with these kind of things, like maybe go to a smaller convention and sort of test it out in a way, and then go to one of the biggest spaces if that's possible.
Yeah, or if you have a friend who's gone to these conventions previously, go with them. It definitely helps.
And even like Discord or like Facebook groups, or even like a lot of sort of like Instagram threads, a lot of people will just ask specific questions. So just
Yeah.
kind of like keep your finger on the pulse a little bit. All right, so I think that's about all we've got for today for that, but I would love to see people put some suggestions in the comments, whether that's on Spotify or on YouTube, and just sort of maybe share some of your tips and tricks for different conventions, whether that's something to bring or to consider for accommodation or transport. All right, well, thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to do it sometime again soon. Should be good.
Yes.